لبيك اللهم لبيك
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to part 7 of my Hajj, a step-by-step guide to Hajj and Umrah. My name is Saad from the Wahi Project, and I'm joined by Ismail Davids from Amid Inspirations, and we're honored to continue our journey with you exploring Hajj and Umrah. So far, we've covered an introduction with basic definitions in part 1, a step-by-step overview of Hajj in part 2, a checklist of things to do before you depart in part 3, a detailed look at Ihram in part 4, the journey from home to Makkah in part 5, and a closer look at Makkah in part 6. Now in this part 7, we'll look at some of the rituals that make up Hajj, in particular Tawaaf and Sa'ee. Ritual is defined as a religious ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. A closely related term which we'll also be using throughout this presentation is the word rite, which is defined as a religious ceremony or act. There are many rituals and rites that make up Hajj and Umrah, but we'll be focusing on two of the main ones, Tawaaf and Sa'ee. Before we look at Tawaaf and Sa'ee in detail, let's take a quick look at the rituals, rites, and acts of worship that make up Hajj and Umrah. These include Ihram and cutting of the hair to exit Ihram, Salah, Tawaaf, Sa'ee, stoning of the Jamrah, animal sacrifice, Quran, Dua, Dhikr. Some of these rituals need to be performed at specific times in specific geographical locations. One notable act of worship is missing. Can you guess which one? It's fasting. Fasting is not part of Hajj or Umrah, though some people may optionally fast a few days while waiting for Hajj to start. So now let's look at Tawaaf in detail and how it's performed. Tawaaf is essentially circumambulation of the Kaaba. To circumambulate means to walk all the way around something, especially ceremoniously. But technically, the actual ritual of Tawaaf is composed of two components. The first is circumambulation of the Kaaba 7 times in an anti-clockwise direction. The second is 2 rak'ah salah. Collectively together, this is the ritual of Tawaaf. So far, you may have noticed that we've mentioned a number of different types of Tawaaf. For example, the welcome Tawaaf, Tawaaf al-Qudum, or Tawaaf for Hajj. But the beauty is that once you learn how to perform Tawaaf, all of them are performed in exactly the same manner, with some minor nuances of course. So let's have a look at the different types of Tawaaf and what they involve. First, Umrah Tawaaf. This Tawaaf is in the Tamattu method of Hajj. The welcome Tawaaf, also known as Tawaaf al-Qudum, is applicable for Quran and Ifrad methods of Hajj. Tawaaf for Hajj, which is also referred to as Tawaaf al-Ifada or Tawaaf al-Ziyarah, is applicable to all methods of Hajj and is actually one of the pillars of Hajj, meaning that it is one of the rites that is compulsory for the validity and completion of Hajj. Farewell Tawaaf, also known as Tawaaf al-Wada, is again applicable to all methods of Hajj and is the last act a pilgrim must perform before leaving Makkah. Nafil Tawaaf, this is a completely voluntary type of Tawaaf and can be performed anytime, even outside of Hajj and Umrah, and one should aspire to perform it as many times as possible. Now, let's look at some of the different requirements for each Tawaaf. We'll examine whether Ihram is required, whether the right shoulder should be exposed for brothers, which is referred to as Ittiba, and whether a light jog is required in the first 3 circuits for brothers as well, known as Ramal. In Umrah Tawaaf, Ihram is required, as is Ittiba and Ramal. In the welcome Tawaaf, Ihram is required, as is Ittiba and Ramal. In Tawaaf for Hajj, Ihram is not required, Ittiba is not required, and Ramal is not required. In the farewell Tawaaf, Ihram is not required, Ittiba is not required, and Ramal is not required. In Nafil Tawaaf, Ihram is again not required, Ittiba is not required, and Ramal is not required. So to summarize, if you're doing the Hajj Tamattu, These are the tawafs you will be doing: Umrah Tawaf, Tawaf for Hajj, Farewell Tawaf, and also optional Nafil Tawaf. As you can see, Ihram, Ittaba, and Ramal are only required in the very first Tawaf, and the rest you will be doing in your normal clothes as applicable. Before we start Tawaf, there are some prerequisite preparations that one must complete. First is wudu. You must be in a state of wudu to do Tawaf. In this way, Tawaf is similar to Salah, that wudu is required. Secondly, to make niyyah in the heart for the type of Tawaf you're doing. For Umrah Tawaf, there are some additional preparation required. You must be in the state of Ihram, which is adopted at the Makat. Brothers will expose their right shoulder, i.e. Ittaba, for all 7 circuits. Brothers will also walk briskly or jog lightly, i.e. Ramal, in the first 3 circuits. Now that the preparations are complete, let's get an overview of how to perform Tawaf from start to finish. As we mentioned, Tawaf is composed of 2 components: the circumambulation of the Kaaba, followed by 2 rakat salah. Let's first examine how to perform the circumambulation component. There are 5 main steps. First, start at Hajjul Aswad, the black stone. There is a certain action to perform here, but we'll cover that in a minute. Secondly, proceed from Hajjul Aswad to the Rukn Yamni corner of the Kaaba in an anti-clockwise direction. Thirdly, at Rukn Yamni, there is an action to perform, which again we'll talk about in a minute. Fourth, proceed from Rukn Yamni back to Hajjul Aswad in an anti-clockwise direction. Fifth, end the circuit back at Hajjul Aswad. This completes 1 circuit. Repeat these steps until 7 circuits are complete. Let's look at each of these steps in more detail. Step 1. Start at Hajjul Aswad. Tawaf always starts and finishes at Hajjul Aswad. Before we continue, some quick housekeeping on nomenclature. For each step we'll be looking at, the actions required will be denoted by this graphic. And the things that need to be said will be denoted by this graphic. Okay, so now getting back to step 1. So we start at Hajjul Aswad. If you can physically be at Hajjul Aswad, that's great. But chances are that due to the overwhelming crowds, you probably won't get anywhere close to Hajjul Aswad. If this is the case, all you need to do is line yourself up with Hajjul Aswad. In the past, there used to be a line in the floor indicating this, but this was removed several years ago. Now there are signs similar to this photo, which indicate that you are in line with Hajjul Aswad, and this is the start and end of Tawaf. Once you're lined up, you'll perform one of these actions only. Kiss Hajjul Aswad if you can. If you cannot kiss Hajjul Aswad, then touch it once with your right hand and kiss your hand. If this is not possible, then face Hajjul Aswad, gesture to it once with your right hand, but do not kiss your hand. As you complete these actions, say the following. If this is the start of your Tawaf, i.e. the start of the first circuit, say only once,
Bismillahi wallahu akbar.
If you're already in your Tawaf, i.e. circuit 2 or higher, say only once,
Allahu akbar.
Step 2. Proceed from Hajjul Aswad to the Rukn Yamani corner of the Kaaba in an anti-clockwise direction. You will normally walk this unless you're doing the Umrah Tawaf or Qudum Tawaf, in which case, for brothers, you will Ramal, i.e. brisk walk in the first 3 circuits. During your walk or Ramal, supplicate, make dhikr, recite Quran. Also, remember to walk or Ramal around the Hijr area and not through it. Step 3. Once you reach the Rukn Yamani, the southern corner, touch it with your right hand and say,
Allahu akbar.
Do not kiss it or your hand. If you're unable to touch it, do not gesture towards it, but proceed towards Hajjul Aswad without saying
Allahu akbar.
Step 4. proceed from the Rukn Yamani corner back to Hajj al-Aswad in an anti-clockwise direction. Again, you will normally walk this unless you're doing the Umrah Tawaf or Qudum Tawaf, in which case, for brothers, you will ramal, i.e. brisk walk in the first 3 circuits. It is sunnah to recite the following between the Rukn Yamani and Hajj al-Aswad corners.
ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار.
A translation is, O Allah, give us the good of this world and the good of the hereafter, and protect us from the punishment of hellfire. From Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 201. Step 5. End at Hajj al-Aswad. Once you reach the Hajj al-Aswad again, you have completed 1 circuit. Proceed and repeat the aforementioned steps until you have completed 7 circuits. Tawaf is always 7 circuits. Upon completion of the Tawaf, proceed to the Maqam Ibrahim or any place in the mosque if this area is too crowded. It is commendable to say the following.
واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى.
Cover your right shoulder. Before continuing, we can't stress enough that it's acceptable to perform the 2 rak'ah anywhere in the mosque. As with the kissing of the black stone, Hajj al-Aswad, remember it's best to avoid harming and causing difficulties to fellow Muslims. For example, see this photo. This would be okay to pray behind the maqam. But this photo of the crowds is probably what you'll encounter. As you can see, impossible to pray behind the maqam safely. Once your preparation is complete and you're in position, perform your 2 rak'ah of prayer. It is sunnah to recite Surah Kafirun, which is Surah 109, after Surah Fatiha in the first rak'ah, and Surah Ikhlas, Surah 112, after Surah Fatiha in the second rak'ah. Now, if you are performing Nafil Tawaf or Tawaf al-Wada, you'd be finished at this point. If you're doing one of the other types of Tawaf, which is followed by Sa'ee, after finishing the 2 rak'ah salah, it is sunnah to proceed to the well of Zamzam and drink your fill. The well entrance is gone now, so you need to drink from the taps against the wall or the dispensers throughout the masjid. After drinking Zamzam, return to Hajj al-Aswad and kiss it if possible, saying Allahu Akbar. If it is not possible, proceed to the Sa'ee area without gesturing or saying Allahu Akbar. Before we proceed to Sa'ee, let's discuss some general guidelines and tips on Tawaf.
Number 1. Tawaf is the best ibadah to perform other than Fard Salah in the Haram. Number 2. Tawaf is superior to the Nafil Salah in the Haram. Number 3. There is no fixed time for Tawaf. Number 4. You do not need to be in Ihram to perform Nafil Tawaf. And number 5. There is no Sa'i after Nafil Tawaf. Some more points in regards to Tawaf. The number of circuits is always 7. There is no niyat to be uttered audibly, the niyat is in the heart. There is no evidence in Quran or Sunnah that one can perform Nafil Tawaf on behalf of deceased or living relatives or friends. Dua in your own language, dhikr and reciting Quran are all acceptable forms of ibadah while performing Tawaf. Some more points in relation to Tawaf and Tahiyatul Masjid. If you plan to perform Tawaf, then you should proceed directly to perform it when entering the Haram. Tahiyatul Masjid Salah is only performed if you plan to sit down prior to performing Tawaf. Avoid performing Tawaf in groups or following and reciting behind a leader. The Prophet ﷺ was the best of teachers and he did not lead anybody or any group in Tawaf, nor did he instruct his companions radiallahu anhum to do so. Tawaf must be interrupted for Fard Salah and recommended for Janazah Salah. Resume your Tawaf from where you have stopped. If you stopped halfway through one circuit, ensure that you continue at the right place. This is important if you stopped for Salah and moved position several times before the actual Salah. So it is important to remember exactly where you have stopped, otherwise start again with that round. If you are in doubt about the number of rounds you have made, rely on the lesser number you remember. It is permissible to talk while performing tawaf. Most scholars agree that one should only discuss necessary things and not merely engage in idle chat. You must have wudu as with salat to perform tawaf.
Now, let's discuss Sa'ee. Sa'ee is essentially 7 laps between the hills of Safa and Marwa, starting at Safa and ending at Marwa. The distance between the hills is about 450 meters, so a complete Sa'ee is approximately 3.1 kilometers, or roughly 2 miles. There are 3 types of Sa'ee. A. After Tawaaf and Umrah, this Sa'ee is part of Umrah in Hajj Tamattu. B. After the Welcome Tawaf. In the Quran and Ifrad methods, Sa'ee for Hajj is recommended at this point for the Quran and optional for the Mufrad. C. After Tawaf for Hajj. This Sa'ee is for those performing the Tamattu method, also for the Quran and the Mufrad if they did not do it after their Tawaf al-Qudum. D. There is no Nafil Sa'ee. As being highlighted on the screen, for Sa'ee A and B, you should be in Ihram. Sa'ee C, normally not in Ihram unless you perform it prior to cutting of your hair. Now let's get an overview of how to perform Sa'ee from start to finish. First, there is some prerequisite preparation to complete. Next, while at Safa or Marwa, there is a specific supplication and your own du'as to make. Then the actual lap between the hills, in which the pilgrim may either recite dhikr or dua or recite Quran. Let's first have a look at the prerequisite preparation. Proceed to Safa. When you get close to Safa, it is sunnah to say the following.
إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله.
Followed by saying,
أبدأ بما بدأ الله به.
Please note that the previous 2 recitations are only to be said once, and that is at the beginning of Sa'ee and not at the beginning of every lap. Ascend Safa, go up until the Kaaba is visible if possible, and facing it, it is sunnah to repeat the following dhikr 3 times, while raising your hands as in making supplication, and not with your palms facing the Kaaba.
الحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد. يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. لا إله إلا الله وحده. صدق وعده. ونصر عبده. وهزم الأحزاب وحده.
Also, do not gesture towards the Kaaba with your hands as in Tawaf. In between the dhikr, make your own supplications, i.e., dhikr, supplicate, dhikr, supplicate, dhikr. Walk towards Marwa. When you arrive at the green fluorescent lights in the roof, brothers should run briskly, if convenient. This is for the length of the green lights. Sisters should not run. There is no prescribed supplication during the Sa'ee or within the green light areas, though you can supplicate and mention Allah as you like, or you could make dhikr. It is also good to recite the Quran during Sa'ee. So let's go over an entire Sa'ee from start to finish. This animation will take you through an entire Sa'ee for all 7 laps. Starting at Safa, you proceed to Marwa. The first lap is complete. Ascend Marwa, face the Kaaba, and it's commendable to do what was done at Safa. Proceed back to Safa once again. Men will run in the green light area. Convenient. The second lap is now complete. Repeat this procedure at Safa and Marwa until you finish at Marwa, which should be your 7th lap. There is no dua at the end of the 7th lap at Marwa. Sa'ee is now complete. So let's view this animation from start to finish.
Just some pitfalls in relation to Sa'i. Number 1. Raising the hands upon Safa and Marwa as in Salah. The Sunnah is to raise them as in Dua facing Qibla. Number 2. Jogging all the way between Safa and Marwa. The Sunnah is for men to jog between the green lit areas only. Number 3. Reciting the ayah Surah Al-Baqarah ayah 158 in every lap when approaching Safa or Marwa. The Sunnah is to recite it only once when reaching the foot of Safa at the beginning of Sa'i. Number 4. Thinking that the lap shout is going from Safa to Marwa and coming back to Safa. That's 2 laps, so you will be making 14 if you do it that way. Number 5. Reciting a particular dua for every lap is found in some dua booklets. There is no such established Sunnah.
This brings us to the end of part 7. Thanks for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you in part 8. Remember to visit our website, which may have additional resources accompanying this presentation. All praise is due to Allah, our Creator and Sustainer, Lord of the world.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك